You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we have somewhat of a bonus episode. I'm super pumped to welcome in Jason Hennessey, author, entrepreneur, and internationally recognized SEO expert, CEO and founder of Hennessey Digital. How are you, Jason?
Doing well, Ben, man. Thanks for having me on the show, bud. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. It's cool to have you in. I went to your website today, and I guess I would expect it to look pretty cool because you're in like the SEO business, and it is. It's amazing, and your story is amazing too. Like you put your story up there, so as you know, as the founder of Lawyer Stories, I could kind of connect to that, like you telling your story. So, I do want to get into that a little bit if you don't mind sharing your story, because I think it is actually an important journey.
Sure.
There's a lot of inspiration and motivation, but I also we're going to get into your book. You have a book out, Law Firm SEO, exposing the Google algorithm to help you get more cases. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So my story, comes from humble beginnings, raised by a single mother. My grandparents were kind of like, there for me, our support system, I guess, if you will. I really didn't have a father figure in my life, but after I graduated high school, I joined the United States Air Force. I got out of the Air Force, got married. I was going to college. I was contemplating going to law school. But then, my path took me on an entrepreneurial journey. And so I started a business where I would DJ weddings.
Let me stop you right there, because I'm sure everybody listening is interested. What took you away from the law school path? Like, what was it that?
You know what? While I was at UNLV, because I was going to college there, I just got out of the Air Force, and I was like, I really want to be I want to be a lawyer. And so I said, all right, well, if I really want to be a lawyer, maybe I should like shadow a lawyer just to make sure that I want to be a lawyer. Smart. And so I ended up shadowing a district attorney out there for 30 days. And then I'm like, really? Yeah, I don't know.
So you just shadowed him, like no pay. You just wanted.
It was a her. Yeah, I shadowed her.
Oh,
no
sorry.
Pay.
That was a mistake for me to assume.
So it's all good. Yeah.
So you shadowed her, and just for free, like just to see if it was something you wanted to do.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And so
smart, by the way.
Really rather than go and pay for law school and end up kind of doing something that I absolutely don't love, I just kind of figured that early, and I saved myself a couple $100,000, I guess.
100%. Yeah.
So, but
all really just like, you just didn't like it. You were like, all right, this isn't for me. Like,
it wasn't for me, because I think at the point I was too entrepreneurial. Like I knew that,
Yeah. And you were a DJ too. Like your story says you were a DJ. I was just kind of like had a picture in my head of you, like, just like going down there with the records and stuff, like making the records.
You're not far off, like I would DJ some nightclubs, and that was like my part-time weekend job, right? So I was like, that's what was helping pay for, college while I was getting the GI Bill from the Air Force too, right? And so I would DJ a wedding on a Saturday night and make $1,000, and then go to school during the week, right? But the problem is that, while I was DJing these weddings, I was advertising in the yellow pages and stuff like that, but I couldn't tap into the brides that were coming to Las Vegas to get married.
Ooh, yeah.
And so this is in 1999-ish.
Okay.
And so the internet was just evolving, if you will, right?
Yep.
And so I'm like, well, what if I create a website called Vegas Wedding Mall where brides can come plan their wedding? And I
actually tried to go to it today.
Oh, it's probably not. I mean, that's like
it was mentioned a couple times, old. So I was curious.
Yeah.
All right.
I haven't been to that website in forever.
All right. So you created that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to my developer and I said, by the way, I paid you $5,000 to develop this website, but nobody's coming to it. And he's like, oh yeah, that's called like search engine optimization. I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks. And so,
oh man.
So I bought a book and I read it front to back. And then I started practicing and I just taught myself SEO basically.
Okay.
And then I became really passionate about the subject, and I bought another book and I bought another book. And, next thing you know, now 2 decades later, like I've been doing this
that's
like
amazing.
Most of my adult life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you moved your family like to Atlanta, right? And you had this office. So you were like, this is 3 times our budget. But like this is the place we got to be. You had this vision of all your awards on the wall, and
I sure
just
did.
A great story. I mean, it's like an inspirational story. So like, just tell us a little bit about that, maybe.
Yeah. So when I moved out, we were living in Vegas. I had then sold that company, right? The Vegas Wedding Mall stuff. After we built up Seattle Wedding Mall and Los Angeles Wedding Mall and a couple of them, we had a call center, and that was a whole business. But then, I didn't want to raise my kids in Vegas. So we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. So we got out there. And then I was asked to speak at an attorney's mastermind group. It was 50 DUI lawyers that came to this attorney's house to learn about marketing, to get more DUI cases in their respective markets. And so I was asked by somebody else to speak at this conference, and I'm like, I don't know anything about legal marketing, but okay, I'll put together a presentation. And so I worked really hard the night before. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to teach them how I was able to rank #1 on Google for the word wedding favors. And I'm just going to be very transparent, and they can follow along. And then if they apply the same principles, they can also, rank for a DUI lawyer, right? It's the same strategy, just different keywords. And so the next day I got on stage and I gave a presentation, and, there was, again, a bunch of lawyers. And at the end of my presentation, about 7 lawyers came up to me, said, this was awesome. Like, I'm paying an SEO guy like $5,000 a month, and he's not doing any of this stuff. And another guy's like, I'm paying my SEO guy like $7,000 a month. Right. So I ended up leaving there like with like 7 clients and about $35,000-$40,000 in reoccurring revenue.
Oh, it's amazing.
Which was the genesis of my first agency called Everspark Interactive. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
So this was 2008.
Wow.
That this took place. Yeah.
And you wrote this book, Law Firm SEO, Exposing the Google Algorithm to help you get more cases. So like, what inspired you to do that?
To be truthful, the book's right here. I put my heart and soul. This is basically 2 decades of me making mistakes and those reading it, learning from my mistakes. And I'm very transparent. If you read this book, you can go and actually you do these strategies yourself. It's not written in very tech terms like most SEO books.
Okay.
But the true reason why I wrote the book is because when I speak to prospects that reach out to me that, want help with SEO or just want some consulting or advice, most cases, because SEO is such a confusing subject, and you have a lawyer that's not very techie in most cases, generally speaking, it's very easy for lawyers to get taken advantage of by people that proclaim to be SEO professionals. And so I just got so sick of people getting burned and wasting all this money that I wanted to just set the record straight to allow lawyers to be educated enough so that they can hold their SEO partners accountable or do it themselves.
So what would you say is like the biggest mistake that lawyers make when it comes to SEO? Having a website? The biggest
is not having a strategy, right? Or just hiring somebody to do SEO and check that box, right?
Right.
SEO is it's an ongoing strategy. It's not a set it and forget it type of a thing. And I think that's where the misconception comes in. It's like it's like me when I first learned, right? I paid somebody to build a website for me with that first Vegas wedding mall, thinking that they were going to do SEO with it because they're a developer, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
Wow. So like, so is that sort of like keeping up with the algorithm or something? Like they always talk about like Instagram changes their algorithm and or TikTok, and you like want to figure out like the ways to best, I don't want to say manipulate, but best work system. Is that the same sort of thing?
Yes and no. I mean, I think if you follow the core principles of SEO as kind of taught in my book, you don't necessarily need to worry so much about when Google makes an algorithmic update. The time that you have to worry about when Google makes an algorithmic update is when you start to take shortcuts, right? Or, you hire somebody that's doing things that might be a little bit manipulative. Like they're stealing content from another lawyer and then publishing it on your website and just changing the firm name, right?
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that causes problems.
Got it. So like, how can understanding the Google algorithm though, like help lawyers get more cases, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, well, at the end of the day, I mean, that's where most people, start their journey, right? I mean, how many times a day do you go to Google? How many times a day do I go to Google, right?
Yeah.
So, when somebody goes to Google and they have a need, right? Whether it's they're looking for a car accident lawyer, a DUI lawyer, a bankruptcy lawyer, family practice, whatever the case may be, there's reasons why the results are displaying, at the top of the search results, right? And the book basically exposes what happens behind the scenes and why Google is displaying those top results versus, a website that's ranking on page 50 of Google. There's reasons for that. It's not like some black magic where people kind of think SEO is.
Right. And you know what I should have asked like 5 minutes ago is like, can you just describe to us like what SEO is?
Yeah. Good question. So it stands for search engine optimization.
Yep.
There's three core principles of search engine optimization, right? So the first is making sure that you have a website that is technically sound so that Google can crawl the website, right? And there's not a lot of broken links and it's fast to load and it's responsive. It has a mobile version, right? So that's the first thing. That's like technical SEO, right? We call it the technical integrity of the site. The second part of SEO is relevancy, right? So publishing content on a regular basis that satisfies the intent of somebody that's doing a search, right? So if somebody's looking for a bankruptcy lawyer in Santa Clarita, California, where I live, you have to have a page that, addresses their concern, right? That's optimized for bankruptcy lawyer, Santa Clarita, California. Now, the thing that separates you is when you have a web page that's optimized for a term and you have a technically compliant website. Now, what makes the pages rank higher is getting popularity. And so you get popularity by getting other websites to link back to you. So for instance, you maybe go out and you get directories, legal directories. You start to put yourself on Avvo and FindLaw, right? So those are votes of confidence from very trusted legal sites. CNN does a story and they reference you as the best bankruptcy lawyer in America and they link back to you. That's a vote of confidence from CNN, right? So that's how you start to push your website higher, is by doing digital PR and getting news stories to kind of.
Does it matter how popular that website that links to you is?
Yeah, it does. So there's something that's it's called PageRank. And so every single page on the web has something called PageRank, and it goes from 0 to 10, let's just say. And so a PageRank 9 web page is much more like powerful than like a PageRank 2 web page. But Google doesn't really you can't see PageRank anymore. It's kind of like, it used to be able to see it. Now there's third-party tools that you can use to kind of get a sense of how popular a page is.
Interesting. Okay. So was that 2 or 3 that we got there from you? That was
so that's 3. So you got the you got the technical SEO, which is the integrity.
Yep.
You've got the actual relevancy, which is your content strategy. And the third piece is the popularity, which is the link building. So
that's, wow, it's a lot of work. Like, it's almost like, how do you get other people to like link to your site? I've heard of it before, and look, I'm dealing with the same stuff because I have a website, thelawyerstories.com.
Mm-hmm.
I have a producer. He knows about this stuff. He does a good job for us. But for me, it's like, I'm now that I'm in this space a little bit, I'm still learning about like what it takes. And so that's like when they say linking back to somebody else's site, I would have been asking people to link to me the whole time.
Yeah, if you'd have known, right? And that's why those that read my book get to kind of get the secrets. But for what you're doing, it's like, it's natural. You know what I mean? Like you're creating amazing content, right? You're interviewing interesting people.
Yeah.
Right. Some of which have notoriety, right? And so if you interview somebody that has notoriety, you know, and then you take the actual, let's just say you take our video, you get it transcribed, you publish that piece of content on the website. So Google has all the transcription to read.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now you say, hey, Jason, by the way, I published your interview, and you send me a link to the page. What am I going to do? I'm going to share it because like I'm proud, right? And so I'll share it on social media, and then people will watch it. People will link back to it. People, you know what I mean? So you're creating like natural, like really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said something interesting, like how important is the transcription in this?
Very important. Otherwise you just have a video on a page, right? And there's really not much to it, you know? So it's super important.
So you should have everything transcribed that you're going to put on. Like it shouldn't, like if I put a link of somebody up there, like, or sometimes we do clips, like we're doing some clips now. We can have we can have it transcribed. So lawyers out there should have some of their clips transcribed, and then it will be picked up by like different.
100%. Yeah. And if you go to my website, jasonhennessey.com, because I've got a podcast, you can see how all of my interviews get fully transcribed. And then we incorporate photos. And if we talk about something, like we'll take a video embed of what we talked about, like, you know, it's just really good content. That's what Google loves.
That's awesome. That's a great, I love this. We're getting so much out of this today, Jason. So thank you. So how does it differ, like the SEO for lawyers from like marketing or other services? Like, is it different for lawyers?
So the strategy and the core principles are the same, regardless of kind of what industry or niche that you're going after. You know, the difference is just how competitive it is, right? So when you have law firms that are aggressively trying to market themselves online, you know, they'll invest bigger dollars into their content creation. They'll invest bigger dollars into publicity, right? PR, to get links back to their site, right? So if you're going to like try to compete in Orlando for like a car accident term or personal injury term, you know, it's going to be a lot more expensive than if you are a locksmith in a small rural town. You know what I mean? Just because of, you know, the margins that these lawyers make, right? They realize that every time a visit comes to their website, it could be millions of dollars in legal fees, right? So that's why there's a high margin there.
There's a high margin if they get the case, and if they
get the case.
So they want to make sure that they have somebody coming to check them out. So
exactly.
So that's a big risk. Like if you have the wrong marketing team, what's like the biggest risk? It's like not getting those.
I see that all the time. That's why I said, that's why I wrote the book, is because sometimes, you know, you have these lawyers that are paying tens of thousands of dollars a month to an incompetent SEO provider. And so here they are 6 months in, and there's always oh yeah, well, SEO takes long, right? We just need another 6 months. Well, that next 6 months is another 60 grand. So now they're into this for $120,000, $150,000, and they're still not really getting results, but they don't even know how to keep score either. Right. So that's why I just wanted to set the record straight, write the book. Lawyer, read the book. This way you'll be empowered and educated to make the better decisions for your business.
I think it's terrific. And by the way, I believe we're starting a book Nook on our website. So we'd love to like throw it up there. We could talk about that later. Because I think it's an awesome book. I think like everybody should read that, because I don't think I don't want to speak on behalf of a lot of lawyers, but I think like it's kind of difficult to figure out. Like it's a little bit technical, but I think like, you know, you're breaking it down into like some really like, wow, okay, I can do that. I need to transcribe. I need to like link back to another site. So it's actually really practical, like when you think of it as a practical matter.
Totally.
So it's very important information that you're providing to us. So like, what's that?
I said that was the goal for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's awesome. So like, how can lawyers who like read the book like know if they hired the wrong marketing team? Is it basically what you just said about them spending money month after month? And
yeah, you know, I think every chapter that they kind of dig into, they'll have like an aha moment. So whether it's like local SEO, right? They'll be like, oh, okay. Or if it's the technical SEO, like, you know, the book is certainly not going to make a lawyer like a technical ninja. You know what I mean? Like that's not the goal of the book. But the goal of the book is to show them the tools that they can use, where they just basically take their website and they put it into a tool, and it's going to show them how fast their website is. And if the site is like scoring on a red, well, then they need to get to their web developer and say, hey, listen, we need to speed up the website, really. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Hold it up again. Hold the book up again. See that?
Yeah. So this is the book. It's called Law Firm SEO.
Awesome.
It came out at the end of last year.
Okay.
You know, so
like, how can your readers create the blueprint for like their overall web strategy?
Yeah. You know, and again, it talks a lot. There's a chapter in there that talks about like creating a content strategy. You know, it really kind of starts with understanding who your audience is, you know, what are they searching for? You know, and how can you get that information? Well, you probably know your audience well enough to the questions that they're asking, right? You know, you can also go in and listen to some of the old phone calls that maybe they called, or get some information from your intake team, you know, and then from there, just kind of map out like FAQs that you can answer. And the other thing that you can do too is you can actually take a question or a keyword and put it into Google, and then Google will spit back a bunch of other questions that are related. And so that will help you steer, you know, your content strategy in the right direction.
Got it. So like, okay, that's really interesting. So, so like Google's like a living organism that it changes really frequently. Like I feel like it's always changing how you're found. Like, so like how up to date are the points in your book?
Yeah.
And what can how can readers stay current?
Yeah. So the points in the book it's made to be evergreen, really.
Okay.
You know,
I like that.
So if you read this book now, but then you read the book in 5 years from now, sure, there might be some tools that might have went out of business. You know, I'm not sure. I really can't predict that, right?
Right.
But as far as like the core principles of understanding SEO, like you've got a lot there to turn somebody that is curious into knowledgeable.
Yep.
And then, you know, then if you want more information, if you know, now turn it more into an interest or a passion, right? You know, we also have a site called I Love SEO.
Yep.
That's a news website that we publish daily updates about things that are happening with Google and the algorithm. So if you really want to keep up with
that's
it, that's
awesome.
a whole other
Yeah,
business.
that's really
that we've got.
Good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So like, does this work with YouTube, or is it just strictly websites? Is it YouTube and other sort of?
Yeah, we talk a little bit about YouTube marketing in the book as well as image optimization. We talk about something called negative SEO, right?
Really? What's a negative SEO? That sounds interesting.
So negative SEO is where you're ranking #1 on Google for a term that's important to me as your competitor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually apply negative SEO strategies to your website to get you possibly banned from Google.
What?
Yeah, there's
what are you going to do?
Well, there's different things. Like, I mean, like I could send something called a DDoS attack, where I basically send so much traffic to your website that it breaks your site and brings it down, right? That's one way. You know, if you have WordPress, like might be vulnerabilities because you're not updating your plugins. And so I might be able to enter your website from like a back entrance and actually hack your site and put, you know, sunglasses that I sell, you know, I mean, you see that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do is you can send a bunch of spammy, pornographic, and casino links to your website that basically kills the trust of it, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
So these are things that, you know.
Don't do that, everybody listening. This isn't what the show's about. This isn't, those aren't the tips. Do not make a clip about this.
But these are the things that if you don't even know that that's even a possibility, how do you protect yourself from that?
Yeah. Well, so basically what you're saying is you're a very powerful man, Jason Hennessey.
I'm teaching how to be, you know, aware of the bad practitioners, right? You know, those bad actors for sure.
Good, man. I think it's incredible how I read that you sat for hours and figured it out, and you spent like, what was the number of hours that you spent looking at SEO and Google? And it was
30,000 hours.
That's like the real deal. And not only that, like, not only do you have the book, like, tell us a little bit about your company, like Hennessey Digital.
Sure. Yeah. So So Hennessey Digital, it's Hennessey.com, Hennessey. If you get the E, you'll get some cognac, which isn't a bad thing anyway. But yeah, we've got a digital marketing agency. We're probably about 140 full-time employees.
Wow.
So we've got, we've got engineers, we've got graphic designers, we got content writers, we got editors, we've got digital PR, people to get links. So we kind of are more of like a full service agency where you just come to us and we develop the strategy and implement it, or we can also do consulting if people want to do the strategies themselves.
Is this all website stuff, website based?
For the most part, yeah. Wow. It's all web, digital stuff. Yep.
That's incredible. So like for lawyers who do want to optimize like their website, like what do you recommend for that?
Yeah, I think there's really two ways to solve it. It's they either want to do it themselves and save money, or they want to, invest their time, right? Or they don't have the time and they want to invest money, right? So there's really two ways to accomplish this. So yeah, for those that are just getting started and you might not have a budget, I highly recommend you read the book and then just start to practice like I did with my old Vegas wedding mall website, right? Yeah. And then you just start to practice and then maybe watch a couple videos, you'll learn, it's just like an onion. You peel a layer, go to another layer, peel layer, go to another, and you'll make some mistakes. But I think this book will give you, some of the shortcuts that, that I've learned over 2 decades. So you don't make the same mistakes that I've made.
And a lot of those are like, so like, do you have chapters in the book? Can you tell us like some of the chapter names of the book?
Absolutely. So the first chapter is called What is SEO, right? Your earlier question.
I love it. Yeah.
Kind of just breaks it down. Like what is SEO?
Yeah, you need it.
The second chapter talks about behind the scenes of the Google algorithm, right? So it kind of talks about what happens when you push, search, like why does the results show up, right?
Yeah.
The third chapter talks about the 3 main components of SEO, which we talked about: integrity, right? Relevancy, and popularity.
Yep.
Chapter 4 talks about creating the blueprints, right? How do you start to create the strategy, right?
Okay.
Chapter 5 talks about your team, whether you're going to do this in-house or hire an agency, what makes more sense for you.
Okay.
Chapter 6 talks about the tools that you'll use to measure success, right? So all the different tools. And then it starts to get into the specifics, right? So chapter 7 talks about content strategies. Chapter 8 talks about the link building with the popularity of your website.
Yeah, that's.
Chapter 9 talks about technical SEO, right? So we cover the 3 core principles in full chapters. Then chapter 10 is about Google Maps, like Google Local.
Okay.
Chapter 11 is photo and video strategies, like we talked about YouTube. Chapter 12 is turning the traffic, right? Converting the traffic into cases, right? So that's more of a conversion chapter.
Yep.
And then chapter 13 is the negative SEO that most people don't even know exists.
That's like a full package of a book like that. If you're looking to learn. So like, is there like, I know you went through this whole SEO. Is there one thing that like is super important? It's hard to break it down like that, I guess, to say like, is there one thing that you should be doing?
Yeah. If there's one thing that you should be doing is, you're a subject matter expert in your field. You can either write some of your own content, or if you don't like to write, maybe just have somebody interview you like we're doing right now, right? Where they ask you some questions, maybe for an hour. Once it's done, then get the actual interview transcribed, like we talked about earlier, and get it edited. You'd be surprised, like a 1-hour interview where somebody does this maybe once a week or twice a week will turn into 7,000-8,000 words of content that you could put on your website.
So why do you say 1 hour? Is that like a time thing? Or
I'm just saying it's, like it could be 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, but like, you can cover a lot of stuff within 1 hour. I mean, look what we're doing here, Right.
And so if I said lawyer stories like 500 times within this session, like, would that help?
It will, especially if it's becoming more naturally and you're not forcing it with like keyword density. But sure, if you start to put, keywords into the hierarchy of the page, sure, that will help. But it's not going to help unless your website is popular, right? So like, you have to get other websites to link back to it.
You have to get the link.
Domain authority.
It's just amazing information. Like you got to get the people to link back to. So I guess I have my work cut out for me with that, Jason. I have a lot of work according to.
What? It's a little, it could be overwhelming, right? But it's a lot easier because when most people, like if a lawyer just walked into a Barnes and Noble today and they said, hey, can you show me the book on SEO? They're going to send you to the computer engineering section of the bookstore. You're going to open it up and it's going to be JavaScript and this and canonical tags. And you're going to be like, what the heck is this? And just close the book and leave. Right. Whereas this book is not that. If you get this book, you'll understand it as a lawyer.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely want to get the book in our book Nook at thelawyersstories.com. I think that would be sweet. So like, where do you see Hennessey Digital and like the world of SEO going in 10 years?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I see a lot of attorneys right now pulling budgets from TV just because the eyeballs aren't there like they used to be, and they're reinvesting a lot of that marketing budget into web. Some of it is SEO, some of it is pay-per-click, right? Some of it is social. So I don't see SEO going anywhere anytime soon. I see it getting more competitive, right? Because if all these lawyers have bigger budgets now.
Well, I think I think it's the budgets. And I also think it's the younger crowd who is really
more savvy,
into like social media and like websites and just being out there, and they'll figure it out somehow.
Totally. Like TikTok is like, that's a new thing. Like I'm certainly not a TikTok expert, right? So already like there's lawyers that have a competitive advantage with just, getting on videos every day and creating like entertaining content on TikTok.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've tried TikTok for a little while and it's hard, it's hard to make that video that just people want to watch, You
need to be consistent because for the first 6 months, nobody's really watching your videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, why am I even doing this? But eventually you get one that goes viral and it starts to take off,
Still waiting for that day, Jason. Still waiting. But hey, did we leave anything out today that you want to tell the Lawyer Stories community? I know we talked a little about the book. We talked about your firm. We talked about your story.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing is taking action. I think that's where people slow down is, they take notes, they read books, but then they fall down by taking action. And I think that's really what separates the more successful people is those that take action.
I 100% agree. You got to execute on your ideas. You could have all the ideas in the world. If you don't execute, it's just not going to happen, right?
That's exactly right. Yep.
For sure. Okay. Well, anything else for us today? Or
no, again, you can find the book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, wherever you buy your books. I think, as low as $13 on Amazon. So I assure you, if you buy this book, if you're an attorney, you will probably get, hundreds of thousands of dollars in return for your $13 investment if you actually read the book and execute.
That's awesome. Jason Hennessey, thanks so much, man. It was great to meet you virtually.
Likewise.
And chat with you. Stay right there. Everybody else. Jason, how can everybody get in touch with you?
Sure. Yep. My email is jason@hennessey.com. If that's my agency is hennessey.com. If you want to learn more about me, just go to jasonhennessey.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Jason Hennessey as well.
And by the way, you have a huge following. I went there today and great Instagram. I encourage everybody to keep following you and
thank you.
Check out your account. Wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.